I would say I have a good example at West Point. I had an accidental discharge when I was doing field training as a sophomore. And I'm really glad that they held me accountable for that, because at the time I thought, okay, nobody was hurt, not a big deal. But by punishing me for that and making me realize that if it does happen in combat or someplace where people actually could get hurt, firing blank rounds, then it could potentially be something bigger. That kind of alludes to the fact that when you're in combat, what you're doing at the tactical level has a lot of times strategic implications. So you have to know that your actions at the very bottom level could be on the 6 o'clock news. Realize that, then you'll know that as an individual, just like Kenny Thomas had talked about, it contributes to the team mission better. You have to know what role you serve and to do that the best way you can. So accountability is very important.
Maybe I can just touch on another conflicting loyalty, something that I faced a lot, and that was the tension between mission and men. I think that the thinking has evolved a little bit over the last 8 or 9 years of combat. But when I was going through my peacetime training in the 90s, I was led to believe that you could always do both. You could always put the mission first, then take care of your people. I'm not sure that's true anymore. I think that in some, you have to do both. But what you're really doing is making a series of point decisions where you're prioritizing one over the other. And if you prioritize the mission over your men all the time, pretty soon everybody's going to be dead and you're going to be standing there by yourself. And if you prioritize your men over the mission every time, then you might as well stay at home and play basketball. So in some, you got to strike a balance, but I think you got to realize that at the moment of decision, it's kind of an uncomfortable reality, but I think you're often prioritizing one over the other.
And real quick, you'll find it's the reason why you hold that person accountable for the negligent discharge is because it's a slippery slope. It's all about precedence. So if you set the precedence that negligent discharges are okay, people aren't going to make sure that they don't do it anymore. You know what I mean? That being said, I'm not a hypocrite, so I'm not going to stand up here and tell you I obey every rule, because I don't. But you'll find that, as you go through it, you'll know when it's right to do that and when it's not. But make sure you know the rules first in order to break them. My senior chief taught me that one.
All right.
It's kind of a unique situation that we're in. Certain Navy EOD platoons have, we work in 4-man teams. It's usually a more senior platoon, and we will support the Green Berets. My first deployment, we supported the Marines out west in Al Anbar. I'm not exactly sure why Army EOD isn't supporting the Green Berets. I think it's because of the jump and dive qualifications that we bring to the table. But you'll find that it really does not matter. Gotta tell a real quick short story. We shoot with those guys a lot, the Green Berets, and doing housework and all that kind of stuff, close quarters combat. Well, we have this big, mean-looking U.S. Navy truck that we love driving to and from Fort Bragg or Kentucky because we feel pretty tough in it, driving down the highway. The biggest truck you could imagine, big lift, U.S. Navy and military writing on the sides and back. Well, we were driving back one time, and we're getting a lot of looks from girls. So we're just like pretty cool guys. They probably think we're SEALs. It's pretty cool. And then by the time we got back up to Virginia Beach, the entire back of our truck was littered with Army wife stickers, like bumper stickers, and I'm in love with the sailor or with the soldier, and you'll find it's we call it purple because there really is no color. We're blue, they're green. It doesn't really matter. So there are some of that. You're getting more into the other side of the special operations communities that you'll learn more later on in your career, but it's a blast. Not literally.
The questions? I've often wondered what is the impact of these repeated deployments to combat zones. What is the impact that on the officer corps to start with, and on the military in general?
I would say that having only done one deployment, take what I say with a grain of salt, but there's a lot of people I've worked with that have done, 3, 4 deployments, and I'd say the number one thing a lot of them have in common is that I guess their ability to process the information and not let the wrong things stick in their head. And I guess that means having the right perspective on what you see, how to filter that information and process it accordingly, and then use that in a positive way. In some small way, I think I've done that with my experience and having been injured and all that. And it's important to realize that when you go to combat, you see things that forever change you, as you've heard many times already with the other panels. But it's your ability to see that and still make a positive difference in other people's lives that will separate you from the people who come back and they forever let that overtake their life and solve problems because of that. So what I'm saying is it's not necessarily something that's going to be easy to get over, and it's not something that might take you your entire life. By having, I think, the patience and diligence to work through anything that helps, better because of it.
Let's say you've got some positive effects and you have some negative effects. And the positive effect is that you end up with a blooded and experienced force. So I would guess that if you were to take a random team or squad or platoon from any one of our units in 2009 and compare it to a similar team, squad, or platoon in 1999, you've got a more capable unit today than you did then because of that experience and learning that happens. So that's positive, but there's clearly a negative effect too. I only did 2 deployments, one in Afghanistan and one in Iraq, but I've gone back to Afghanistan for work, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and so got a little bit of perspective on going back repeatedly. And I think that the trajectory matters. If you're going back to Iraq in 03, 04, and 05, and each time you go back, it's worse than when you were there before. That does something to you psychologically. If you go to Iraq in 07, 08, and 09, and each time you go back it's better, that does something different.
Real quick, General Petraeus was talking earlier about the new greatest generation. I was a little upset with him because that's what I've been proclaiming for the past few years. I actually had that line first, but I'll forgive the general. But you have guys. This is directed directly towards you midshipmen and you cadets. You have the greatest generation that you'll be in charge of. These guys. I've had guys stay extra in country when times were real bad, just so a guy could stay back and watch the birth of his first son. I had to tackle my petty officer because he was going down range on an IED when it wasn't his turn to do it because it was a real dangerous one and he didn't want any of us doing that. So we're literally wrestling with each other with the bomb suit. These guys, if you want blood, they'll cut their own veins. So, we have guys that are volunteering to get three days off from Iraq just so they can be back on the road for 4 months just to deploy 2 weeks after they get back from that. So it's real tough because you have to. It's an amazing thing to see, and you have to put a leash on these guys because they'll run themselves into the ground. And there's something wrong with all of us here at this table. Like these guys charge machine gun nests, I defuse bombs. You know what I mean? Like the type of people that you're talking about, there's something wrong with them. So, we use phrases like a beautiful death and all this kind of stuff. Not that we want to, but if it happens kind of thing. And that's when you start talking like that, that's when they need a break because that's not normal. So, that being said, you'll know what's best for the guys and make sure you don't let them run themselves in the ground because, with all due respect to the greatest generation, we aren't finished yet,